Hello, welcome, and good evening. This is the War Room. This is day 70 of Russia's incursion into the Ukraine. We have a bit of a short show for you tonight. There wasn't a whole lot of news to cover, but we'll get through it, and with any luck, I'll get you in and out of here in an hour. Hopefully. This is the 49th episode of the War Room in total, and I think I'm going to try a new intro music tomorrow to commemorate the 50th episode. Anyway, we're here, you're here, good evening to you all. I'm here, I've got a dog in my lap. She's shivering uncontrollably for some reason, and I'm in a bad mood. Not because stuff didn't get delivered on time, because my 40-round mags for my new toy got here. The muzzle brake didn't. It'll be here tomorrow. And the toy will be here Friday, hopefully. And that'll be the end of that. And that'll probably be the end of my gun purchases for the rest of the year. At least so far. Asterisk. No, I was late to the party for a few things. For instance, the movie Good Will Hunting. I didn't watch it until about 2 years ago. It was very good. I didn't sit down and watch True Detective until this year. Also very good. I didn't sit down to Fargo until this year. Also incredibly good. And then one day, somebody told me, hey, you should watch Dexter. You're a psychologist and a sociologist, and you like Hannibal Lecter. You'll probably like this series. So I did. And I watched the entire 8-season span of Dexter. And I loved it. And then, to my surprise this year, a sequel came out. And I thought, So I watched most of that. And it had a really good ensemble cast. And I thought, that's great. And it's 10 episodes. And by the time I got to the 8th episode, I started to worry about what was about to happen. Because I had read that there won't be a second season, and I thought, maybe that didn't do very good in the ratings, or whatever. But as I got to episode 8 and episode 9, I thought, oh god, I have a bad theory on what's about to happen. And I just watched the last episode, and now I'm pissed off. Like, really pissed off. Anyway, if you guys haven't seen that series, I'm not going to talk about it any further. It's just, sometimes when I watch a series, TV, anime, whatever, anime is the only thing that I've ever watched where sometimes the writers give you the ending you're desiring. But in most, like, American television, like 99 times out of 100, you don't get the outcome you want. Like, I've written, I think his name is Sir Thomas Harris, and I have begged him to write the final chapter of the Hannibal Lecter series. And he refuses to do it. He doesn't want to do it. So someday, long after he's dead, I'll write it. And hopefully Sir Anthony Hopkins will still be alive to play the role. Hopefully. I don't know. For those of you who join the lobby for Working Stiffs on my Discord, Patrick and I and a couple other people, we always fantasize out loud about sequels that never became but should. And we talked about, like, Tango and Cash 2022. And, like, Patrick and I reasoned out the whole story. And anyway, we did that one. We did, I forgot. Anyway, I was getting interrupted. Another reason to piss me off. Anyway, today's day 70, and I did update everything. The scroller's good. You're probably wondering why there's gigantic Russian artillery for the thumbnail today. It's part of the stories of the day, so I wouldn't, sweat it. But you'll see. It looks like I actually have 3 panelists today. So we'll be a 4-pack. So let me go ahead and get these guys in. We'll go ahead and get through the story. Yeah, Terry, you're right. So good evening to Shady Hill, Randy Adams, Terry Share, and the HVS. But No, it's just another piece of my AK collection that's going to be here soon. And then after that, uh, I had a plan to build the problem solver. For those of you who play Fallout, you know exactly what that is. And then I'll probably go ahead and build myself out a pretty nice AK-74, just to say I have one. I'm not really aching for a 5.45 rifle, but you know, I might as well have one to round out the collection, right? Other than that, I'm in the process of trying to acquire a Polymer 80 compact frame, but I just discovered today that they have one called Blue Titanium, and that's the one I want now. I was going to just settle for the FDE in the 17 size, but I really want the 19 size, and I put myself into a back order for the Blue Titanium, which was $129 or something like that. It's more than all the other ones, but I saw it and I was like, ooh, that would look really good with a red Apex trigger. So, I really didn't have the desire to do anything with one of those, but I just want to build one for the sake of, hey, I built one, just to say I did it. And, you know, I can kind of Gucci it out, have a little bit of fun with it, or whatever. Anyway, for those of you who saw my AK video, the GF4, I think what's going to end up happening is I'm going to take the RS Regulate mounts off of it, and the Romeo MSR and the Juliet 3 Micro as a package. I'm going to take it off of that rifle, and I'm going to put it on the next one that's going to be here Friday, because I was introduced to a, what was it? A Holosun 507C2 green ACSS. It's a long part number. Like, I seem to own a lot of things that are mouthfuls. But yeah, it's a pistol red dot. But ever since I put the RMR that I had on my AKP, where it co-witnesses with the front sight post, I thought, yeah, you know, it's the perfect size for an AK, and it puts the dot or the chevron right at the tip of the front sight post. So proportionally, it might look a little small on a full-size AK, but functionality-wise, it's going to do exactly what I want it to do. So it's something I'm considering doing. Not really sure yet. I might take the SRO off my Walther and put it on there and just look at it and just be like, yeah, okay, I can do that. Or I might just say, no, this was a bad idea. I haven't decided yet. Anyway, let me go ahead and pull in my panelists. I think that's all the intros I've got for you today. So this is Scottish Naya, Scott P79. This is Mikhail Nightstrikesky, also known as Nightstrike, with a Y.
God.
And then this, obviously, is the Polish Hammer, who's going to play some goofy music after I say the words Polish Hammer, because that's just what he does.
Really want to? I'll do it right now.
No, don't do it. I'll kick your ass right out of here.
You'll
I'm not going to give you a copyright
again.
strike.
Anyway,
Again?
nah, I haven't gotten one yet. It's just...
What? Wait, Night Strike, you got one?
No.
No,
the only reason
Wait.
that Night Striker I ever used to get strikes on our videos was because G-Webs would play some fucking stupid music and then get us a copyright strike.
Yeah.
And then we'd be like, hey, thanks a lot, jackass. Now I'm locked for 90 days.
Or
That's
we'd
right.
Trying to take out the competition.
Webs or somebody else in our panel that would
Yeah.
be watching TV in the background.
Yes, yes, that was that too. Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Right.
Night Strike, question.
What?
What?
I
We're in
was
the middle of a
asking-
show. Can y'all have like
Yeah.
a love-in later?
Yeah, we'll talk later.
I was,
What?
I was asking about that strike. Like, did you get an actual copyright strike for
I
that?
did.
Cry?
I did.
I've gotten them before.
No, I
You
know
got
Whale Cry.
4?
I didn't get 4. I got them before.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I got 1, but I think I appealed it out, so it didn't
Because-
stay on my channel.
Because remember, I used to do lobbies too when Pink couldn't do them.
Yes.
I gave him the
Those were the
Soviet
days.
strike.
And those were the days, but those were also the days where you could get a strike or you could get a copyright thing on your video like every other day.
They played the Soviet anthem on with streams.
Don't do that.
Apparently,
Don't-
one of my puppies are missing.
Uh-oh. Did they get outside?
I don't think so.
They were on-
Okay, you guys can talk it up just for a few minutes. I'm gonna go find the dog before my whole house is in crisis. So just bear
There we
with
go.
me. Y'all just keep things
I'll,
going for a second. I'll be right
I'll
back.
do the prayer for you.
Wait, you don't like the freaking
So
Soviet music?
no, because the problem is it's copyrighted.
Yeah, come on.
It's copyrighted by Russia. It's copyrighted by the Soviet Union, even though they're not a thing anymore.
That's a lie right there.
It's not lie. It's
That's a
not.
lie.
It's
That's a lie.
it's not.
It's a
Anyway, who do
lie.
we have out there on the live chat? We've got the Shady Hill Homestead. We got Hawaii Volcano Squad out there. We've got Scott pulling double duty. We got Randy Adams 03. We got Terry Scherer out there too. So we got a couple of the regulars. How's it doing? How's it going, guys? So what's going on? I do not have the script for Sean today because Sean has the script. He comes up with it. So I am out of the loop. I heard rumblings of the Pope today and some other things, and hopefully we'll get.
Okay.
The
Chaos has
Pope,
been
really?
averted. I found the dog.
He was hiding under the couch.
She
really
was
had to bring
hiding
up-
underneath my chair that I was sitting in.
That's right. You had to bring up the Pope.
Actually, the Pope's going to make a appearance in today's stories.
Yeah, no, that's why I brought it up.
The Pope
That's
you
why I
cannot
brought it up.
trust.
Well, it's not
No,
the Pope
of
that we're going
course
to
you
talk
can't.
about. It's actually, it's a,
It's the guy he wants to talk to that you can't trust.
yes.
Oh,
Okay,
you tell
good.
me that
Wait,
freaking
no,
Pope
that
is
was
like with the
yesterday's
mafia?
stories. No. That was yesterday's stories. No, the guy that we're going to talk about, the Pope also wants to talk to because he's also a holy person, but he's also a corrupted holy person. So we'll get to that.
Mm.
Let's go ahead and get to the stories because I've already dicked around for 12 minutes. Thank you for holding down the fort because apparently everyone in this house was losing their goddamn minds over a dog. Because the last time my mom lost a dog, he died. Yeah. Anyway, all that BS
I don't
aside.
think Sean can make the icons bigger, Randy. Sorry.
No, I wish I could. Like, I've actually talked to the Discord staff because I'm part of the beta test team, and I'm like, yo, we need to make the avatars bigger. Like, take up proportionally like 60% of the workspace. And they were like, yeah, we can do that. I'm like, well, get to it. Because I mean, okay, so originally I didn't make a big fuss about it because I was originally going to set up and turn on the camera, my webcam, except my webcam is really old and ghetto, and I've just been sort of lazy to replace it. Otherwise, I would just be on camera the whole time, and then I would start pissing off all my panelists because I would tell them to turn theirs on too.
But I haven't shaved today, so I'm
I
not
don't
gonna. I'm
care.
Not
Whatever you do with your pubes is your business.
Hey, you shut it, Mister. I can only do the Fu Manchu.
Listen, Mister. I've got shaft in a crotch leg lock. I play this
Nice
game
try.
better than you. I've got more years experience at it.
Nice strike.
Warsaw, shut up.
Let it go.
All right, let's get to the stories. I'll explain why the thumbnail has that artillery piece and all that good stuff today. I actually only got about like maybe a dozen stories, so we're gonna get through these pretty quickly. I kept the pictures down to a slight minimum too, but they're all relevant. First story today actually doesn't start at midnight. It comes out actually a quarter after 1 a.m., and which would be about 8 o'clock local time, Ukraine. During a phone conversation with Polish President Andrzej Duda, Ukrainian President Zelenskyy warned Russia has already started what he calls an energy war with the entirety of Europe. He started the conversation congratulating Duda as May 3rd is the 231st anniversary of the adoption of their constitution, before thanking the Polish leader for his assistance in Ukraine's ongoing military war with Russia. Democratic values and traditions, the pursuit of justice unite our states and people. Today we feel the strong leadership and support of Poland in the selfless struggle of the Ukrainian people for the protection of European values. We appreciate it. Like, I thought that ending was kind of like casual a bit. I don't know. That just didn't seem like to fit the narrative. Anyway, Zelenskyy then cautioned Poland and the rest of Europe not to keep their energy dependence on Russia. Russia has already started an energy war against Poland and the rest of Europe. EU states must get rid of energy dependence on Russia. So, steps are already being taken. Uh, Unfortunately, Ukraine can't spin up their reactors to the point where they can provide and export energy, but France can, and Switzerland is also in the process of doing that. Switzerland was actually kind of a unique case, and I can't remember who sent me the video, but I had asked, well, Switzerland is a country built in the mountains. Why don't they just build their nuclear plants in the mountains? Put the cooling towers up through the mountain, and that way, if anything ever goes wrong, they could just bury it in the mountain and seal it. Uh, I didn't realize how close to right I was because they did do that. They did that in the 1960s, I think. They tested
60s or 70s.
Yeah, I had a really fascinating video on it, and I watched it, and they did dig into a mountain, and they put in a heavy, I think it was a heavy water or a sodium reactor or something like that. And it worked, but something went wrong with the cooling circuit, and then it scrummed, and then it sort of lightly irradiated the inside of the mountain. And, like, everyone survived. But what ended up happening is Switzerland got so spooked by the endeavor that they sealed the mountain, and they said, okay, we're not doing this ever again. Like, they just failed one time and chickened out. But they went really heavy on hydroelectric because it's a mountainous country, so there's a lot of runoff river, and so they were able to dam up a few of the rivers. They have a lot of hydro, and because they're also in the mountains, they have a lot of wind. But this whole situation in the Ukraine has sort of opened the eyes of Europe, and strangely enough, and we've been talking about it here in the United States too, this is the beginning of that alternate reality from the Fallout series, if you think about it. Now, for those of you who may not know, Fallout in the gaming world, it's an alternative timeline to our reality. And in the beginning, everything runs in parallel with our history right up until World War II. And then what ends up happening is, during the 1950s, in our timeline, we sort of dabbled in nuclear energy, but we didn't depend on it. Whereas in the Fallout timeline, humanity embraced the atom, so they went all in for it. So everything was reactors, nuclear power. Because they focused on it so hard, they were able to miniaturize it and advance it to the point where they had nuclear powered cars, nuclear powered planes, like smaller reactors. And
so do you think we should be focusing towards Anchorage now?
No, not yet.
Okay.
Soon, very soon. But the thing is we have to do all the embrace the atom first, right? And yeah, it'd be kind of cool. I mean, for those of you who don't know,
we almost did that when they're really trying to push hydrogen cars.
Yeah. See, there's two ways to do it, though. We'll get into that later. Anyway, the thing is for those of you who don't know, if you've ever seen a Los Angeles class nuclear submarine, it's pretty big, long, wide, tall, that whole thing, right? But if you ever saw the nuclear reactor on that submarine, it's actually quite small. The whole thing is about the size of a telephone booth. The whole thing. Someone told me that the reactor on a Seawolf is half that size. And a Seawolf was even bigger. It's like, okay, so they did improve the design, right? But if we kept doing that since the 50s, imagine we'd have fucking arc reactors, and Iron Man wouldn't be it wouldn't be sci-fi, would it?
No, we would have power armor.
No, I think we would actually be going space, the final frontier.
These are the Voyagers.
Starship Pwnery. Yeah, that whole situation, right? But yeah, I think this whole conversation between Ukraine and Poland today sort of continues a conversation that's been slowly gaining traction. We've been saying it here in the United States ever since the Ukrainian conflict began, that we should probably spin up more reactors. Um, Personally, here in my state of Texas, that has also come up because there are two nuclear power plants in Texas. One has two reactors where one I don't even think is running, like it's shut down, and the other one's running at I think 20%, and then the other one's running at like 20 or 30%.
It's funny you should mention that because remember when Dai Fukushima happened in Japan, and then
Yes.
everybody in the world were like, "Well, because of that stuff like that can happen, we're gonna have to turn our nuclear reactors off and go to something else, to alternative power." And then
Well,
Germany went and said, "Oh, we're gonna turn all our nuclear reactors off. We're not gonna use them anymore. We're gonna go to different alternative power."
yeah.
And look at how Germany is still trying to get all of that Russian natural gas
Yes. Well,
because
see, that's the thing.
they turned all their nuclear reactors off.
The thing about nuclear energy and reactors and things is sort of like I had a conversation today with somebody about the highway system and how I really hate paying to be on a tollway and sitting in gridlock. I'm like, that's not what this was intended for. And he said, well, the problem is, or the solution's simple, two-tier highway, one stacked on top of the other. And I'm like, yeah, they did that in California, but then an earthquake collapsed the top floor on the bottom, and a lot of people got killed, and a bunch of countries were like, or a bunch of states were like, no, we're not going to do that anymore. That's crazy. It's too dangerous. The thing with the highway system is exactly the same argument you can have with nuclear energy. Certain um, certain places don't accommodate the safe usage of nuclear energy. Not politically, I'm just talking geographically. So, like Fukushima, it's on the ring of fire and it's prone to tsunamis. So, it's like that's a bad place to have a nuclear reactor. However, in the middle of Kansas or Oklahoma, like Gizzard Gary, for instance, right? Like, he's in the perfect place for nuclear energy. It's like, think
Kansas.
about it like this. We have a national power grid, right? If you're so worried about earthquakes, don't put them in earthquake states. If you're so worried about forest fires, don't put them in forest fire states. If you're so
Worried
worried
about
about
hurricanes
coastal
and
hurricanes,
tsunamis.
don't put them on the East Coast.
Mhm.
Build a shit ton of them in the flyover states and just connect them to the national grid. Problem solved.
Well, that's why when they were going to build a nuclear reactor here in South Carolina, they were building it upstate, further inland.
Right.
So,
But I mean,
and
even
honestly,
one could argue that even a Category 5 hurricane can devastate your entire state, though, because you're a coastal state, regardless.
you build it far enough inland, past Columbia, you'd be
Build it
fine.
in
You can power the whole
Appalachia,
state.
in those mountains. Then it's safe, because hurricanes get shredded so fast when they hit mountains. Like, they just can't handle mountains. They hit them and they just disperse immediately.
Hey, Sean, I hate to ask, but what am I looking at exactly? That type of artillery?
You would ask. Hang on.
That
I
tank
think
there?
it's artillery. I forgot the name of it. Give me a second, I'll tell you.
That thing looks fucking massive.
It is massive.
And that's in the Russian Moscow right now?
It's called an MSTA-S, or
Holy
Mr.
shit,
S.
man. That thing is fucking big.
It's Mr. S. Yeah, if I'm not mistaken, I want to say it's a 130, but it might be a 150 millimeter main gun. It's pretty.
How many of those do they have?
A lot. Those are actually built on T-72 chassis, so I mean they've had them forever.
Oh my goodness,
I mean,
Ukraine got
if you look at the recoil system, it's got the two recoil springs above it, just like artillery pieces, because it's old technology.
So what they did was they put artillery pieces on a freaking tank's
On a turret.
chassis.
Yeah, that's common. We did it too. Ours was called the M51? M51 or M53. It was built on a M46 Patton turned around backwards.
So what I'm looking at right now, this is going to be heading over to Ukraine.
It's already there. They've already used them.
Holy
152.
shit, man.
Thank you. Yeah. I figured it was going to... Well, okay. Nah. Okay, so it's a different version of the 152 because the Soviet Union's been using 152 millimeter artillery or towed artillery or mobile tracked vehicle artillery since World War II. The SU and ISU 152s, but they were very, very different gun designs, much shorter barrels. Like the ISU 152, fresh out of the pool look, real short barrel. Yeah.
Okay,
Anyway,
what do we have equal to this in our country?
ours are 155s.
Yeah.
We use 155s. Ours is the M107 A7 Paladin. They're up to A7 now. Yeah. Those are fantastic. Like, I wish I didn't listen to my dad growing up, because I would have said one of two things going to the recruiter. What do you want to do, son? I want to fly a warthog. Well, we don't do that in this branch. Well, point me to the direction of the one that does. Or, what do you want to do, son? Put me in a Paladin. Because it has a satellite uplink and it's air conditioned. And Scott fell asleep. Chat napper.
No, of course
Wake
he
up,
is.
chat
I'm gonna mute him. Excellent. No.
Anyway.
We were born Scott.
You could say no, but everyone heard it on the replay. Anyway. Yeah, we had 155s. They have 152s. It's just potato at that point. Okay, so next story. Let's move on. But yeah, embrace the atom. I think that's the theme of the energy question these days, because technically it's the greenest form of energy we've got, because the cooling towers only put off water vapor. And yeah, there's nuclear waste, but I don't know if you know this, but there are natural instances of nuclear fission that happen underground. They've found...
There's one I've known of in Africa.
They have found giant geodes of dissimilar ores that had fused together in a fusion process and put off radiation. It was underground. They found it, and they dug it up, and they were like... They thought somebody had actually built and ran an underground reactor. And then when they actually ground probed it, they were like, no. No, that's natural. That happened. But you're right, it's rare, but it does happen.
Like, they found it once.
I think it was on one of those Dark 5 videos I saw not too long ago.
Probably. It was in Africa.
The ore was huge. Like, this chunk of whatever they pulled out, it was massive. Because it all fused together. But
And there's one spot in India where they think there was one, but they can't prove it.
Well,
Because
you're going to make me look this up.
There's a type of rock that is only produced by nuclear fission.
Yeah, and that's how they found it.
No, the one in India didn't find any signs of radiation, but they found that type of rock.
They found the ore. It's called Oklo. Does that sound right? The
I don't
Earth's
remember.
2 billion year old only known natural nuclear reactor. I think that's what you were talking about.
Mhm.
Oh yeah,
Yeah, that's the one in
yeah. This
Africa.
is the rock. Yeah, you're right. It is Africa.
And the only other time they found that rock was after nuclear blasts. The stuff in India.
Well, they found essentially what they found was uranium-235.
Mm.
I mean,
No, there's this
it's ugly.
destroyed city in India somewhere
Yeah.
that dates back thousands of years, apparently.
Boy, we are just so off in Tangentville tonight. Sorry. Sorry, guys. All right, moving
And
on.
that city, apparently, they found that rock that is only produced by like a nuclear blast.
Yeah. All right, let me move on. 2:17 a.m. That's the picture there. 9:17 a.m. local time. Civilians who have arrived in Zaporizhia Tuesday were not the ones who were evacuated from the Azovstal steel plant in Mariupol, according to its mayor. The buses, allegedly carrying Ukrainian civilians from the Azovstal steel plant, were not actually from Mariupol, but from other cities. This came from Mayor Vadim Boychenko during a briefing at the media center in Ukraine. The previous evacuation, which took place yesterday, which was presented by a number of media outlets as information that those were the residents of Mariupol who left, is not true. Those people who were evacuated had nothing to do with the residents of Mariupol. They're from other cities. The mayor went on to say that the evacuation process of Mariupol and their residents to Zaporizhia could take over a month or more, because in order for people to pass through these checkpoints, certain security certificates are required. We're currently looking forward to the arrival of Mariupol residents in Zaporizhia, he says. One has to have a certificate to leave the city, either to the territory controlled by Ukraine or Russia. People can wait a month or more to obtain such a certificate. It's just a jeer. The occupiers are really picky about civil servants and municipal employees. People are arrested and kept in inhumane conditions in very cramped rooms while waiting for paperwork. I'm sorry, this isn't East Germany. This isn't where you pull up and go, papers, please. And then look at a fucking notebook and go, your papers are in order. No. 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 This is an evacuation in an emergency situation. You take the paper, roll it up into a tight little ball, and shove it up your ass. Jesus. Do not insult me. We have very detailed files. You know, that kind of bullshit.
What files?
Very
We have
detailed
ways of
files.
making you talk.
Yes, we have ways of making you talk. Anyway, moving on, because I've wasted so much time with this bullshit tonight. Sorry. Okay, so this is just a tweet that came up. It was a Dmytro Kuleba. He's the foreign minister for Ukraine, I believe. Anyway, this is his public thank you to Italy for an arms delivery and continued request for Russian embargo. So he says, I thank Luigi Di Maio, for Italy's leadership on sanctions, including an oil embargo and arms deliveries to Ukraine. We discussed facilitating trade between our countries and security guarantees for Ukraine. I stress the importance of granting Ukraine EU candidate status. Yes, that's great, but you still need to be in NATO. I don't do a good German accent because I'm not German. Actually, sometimes I can, but it usually involves
Depends
a few
on how
drinks.
drunk you are.
Exactly. It really
Who
is.
didn't tell y'all?
Well, I mean, I can do that Mike Myers Sprockets thing that he used to do on Saturday Night Live, where he was the host. His name was Dieter. Man, that was some shit. Anyway.
Can you do one of Arnold Schwarzenegger?
Yes, but I have to be very obnoxiously loud to do it.
Yeah, but that's more Austrian.
Patrick does a
Good
better one than
morning.
I do anyway. I
Austrian is
defer
close to
certain
German.
impressions to him. All right, so moving on, we're going to fast forward about 3 hours. And so, I mean, we're going to sail right past, lunchtime. It's 2:21 p.m. local time now. And do I have a photo for you? Oh yeah, this is part of that whole Pope thing. So this guy here, who apparently he throws flaming daggers at you. I don't know what is that. Anyway, the Russian Orthodox Church leader that Pope Francis has warned against becoming Putin's altar boy. That's some fighting words, isn't it? Is being targeted in the latest wave of economic sanctions that the European Union is preparing to unleash against Moscow for its invasion of Ukraine. Well, no wonder this guy's throwing flaming daggers at you. Patriarch Kirill was identified in an EU document viewed by the AFP Wednesday as a longtime ally of President Vladimir Putin, who has become one of the most prominent supporters of Russia's bloody war in Ukraine.
Oh no.
Right? Where is it? A phased-in Russian oil embargo and sanctions against the family members of Kremlin spokesman Dmitry Peskov are also part of the economic measures that the EU is proposing to implement. The proposed sanctions come after a spokesperson for the Russian Orthodox Church last month said that the imposition of sanctions on religious leaders is nonsense and the rejection of common sense. This came from the Catholic News Agency. Of course they're going to say that. Catholic bishops and cardinals in Poland, Germany, Ireland, and Luxembourg reportedly have urged Kirill to denounce the Ukraine war. But Pope Francis revealed in an interview Tuesday he had a 40-minute talk by video with Kirill on March 16th, half of which he says Kirill spent reading from a sheet of paper with all the justifications for the war. So basically he was given a piece of paper and said, you will read this or you will be mining salt in Siberia wearing your favorite little sexual altar boy's head as a hat. We, the Pope
Siberia with him.
Yeah, we, the Pope and Kirill, are pastors of the same people of God. That is why we have to seek paths of peace, to cease fire of weapons, Francis told Italy's Corriere della Sera newspaper. The Patriarch cannot become Putin's altar boy. Recently, Kirill blessed the Russian soldiers who are invading Ukraine at a lavish service. I think that's where that photo came from. We need to be very strong. When I say we, I mean the armed forces first and foremost, Kirill said. and Kirill was quoted as saying, "Russia has never attacked anyone." It is amazing that a big and powerful country never attacked anyone, only defended its
Right.
borders, Kirill said in a Tuesday sermon.
Right.
You need to put down that bottle of fucking sacrificial wine, dude. Like,
Sacramental wine.
there's some Stolichnaya, like, they spiked your shit. There's fucking, what's it called? Absinthe. He's probably drinking absinthe.
Yeah, he's drinking absinthe. He ain't drinking wine.
They mine salt in Siberia, too, actually.
They mine everything.
I
in
happen to know
Siberia.
that for a fact. Anyway, moving on. Let's see. About another hour goes by, so now it's 3:23 p.m. Moscow. I'll take you to Mother Russia. And it has to do with that picture, but I'm going to give you a different one, because that one's a little bit more of the inventory, including said artillery, facing you. Kind of scary looking, right? Anyway. Russia has revealed Wednesday that tens of thousands of people and hundreds of aircraft are set to participate in military parades on May 9th to celebrate its victory in World War II. The scope of the demonstrations, which were outlined by Russian Defense Minister Sergei Shoigu during a meeting with Moscow's armed forces, come as President Putin's invasion of Ukraine enters its 70th day. In a Telegram post summarizing the meeting, Russia's Ministry of Defense said 11,000 people, 131 pieces of weapons and military equipment, and 77 aircraft will take part in the parade on Red Square, dedicated to the 77th anniversary of the victory. This year, military parades will take place in 28 cities, it added. They will involve nearly 65,000 people, about 2,400... Wait, how does that say it? About 2,400 weapons. What? I think they wrote the number and then 2,400. I think they just meant 2,400 weapons and military equipment and more than 460 aircraft. In late April, images emerged of dozens of Russian military vehicles thundering through the streets of Moscow during a rehearsal there for the May 9th parade. Speaking about the war in Ukraine Wednesday, Russia's Ministry of Defense also said the U.S. and its NATO allies continue to pump Ukraine with weapons. Any North Atlantic Alliance transport arriving in the country with weapons or material for the needs of the Ukrainian armed forces is considered a legitimate target for us to hit. In the course of the special operation, I'm so sick of that title, our servicemen are showing courage and bravery, honorably fulfilling their military duty and ensuring the safety of the Donbas population, the ministry added, referring to the ongoing fighting in eastern Ukraine. To answer your question, HVS, I personally haven't been there, but I have a friend whose relative was actually imprisoned there, and that's exactly what they made him do. And he thought he was going to die there, but he got out somehow. He was
On his way.
well, he was a prisoner of war, and then after he got out, he moved to Bosnia, and then that country had a civil war too. It's like he couldn't get away from conflict. Anyway, moving
brought it
on.
with him.
Nah, he didn't bring it with him because it was different. It was sort of a slightly different thing. It was more like a holy war in his country. Anyway, moving on. Around the same time, a couple minutes later, but around the same time. Do I have photos for this? Let me see. Yes, I do. Okay, so this was the Zelenskyy interview. This is just a picture from it this morning. This is an actual Fox News interview, and it was an exclusive today. It was the only one he gave at this length. I think it was like over 50 minutes long. But Ukrainian President Zelenskyy, in an exclusive interview with Griff Jenkins on Wednesday, said that they are following the concept of Goebbels, and they are using the same methodology after Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lapdog compared him to Adolf Hitler. The interview lasted nearly an hour. Russia's invasion of Ukraine entered its 70th day. So what if Zelenskyy is Jewish, Lapdog said earlier this week, according to the Times of Israel. The fact does not negate the Nazi elements in Ukraine. I believe that Hitler also had Jewish blood. Zelenskyy told Fox News on Wednesday that Russia is following the concept of Nazi propagandist Joseph Goebbels, and that they are using the same methodology, and the reaction, I think, is to weaken the world to these phrases of Lapdog. I I don't want to say his name. When asked about the idea of President Joe Biden making a visit to the city of Kyiv following a recent trip there by U.S. Speaker of the House Nancy Pelosi, Zelenskyy said it would be good for him to be here. It is possible. I don't know, the Ukrainian leader said. Zelenskyy also said that he has a message for the Americans, that they should know that the war is not only about us and Russia, but we fight on our land for the principles which Washington gives the meaning much the same. Let's see. The principles that you share, and that's why we need, that the principles that you share, and that's why we need your support, and I'm sure that will win. It doesn't translate clean. Adding that Ukraine wants to save as many people as possible because we cannot lose our nation. The Ukrainian leader also reiterated his plea for more Western weaponry to fight back against Russian President Putin's army. He also says that Russia is looking to destroy everybody, including civilians, still hiding inside the Azovstal steel factory in Mariupol. When asked about reports of Putin formally declaring war on Ukraine on May 9th, the date of Russia's Victory Day celebration honoring its successes in World War II, Zelenskyy said that it wouldn't change a thing for Ukraine because the full-fledged war has already been going on for 70 days. But should Russia claim Mariupol as victory, the rest of the world will always look at what's happening in Mariupol as an atrocity with war crimes being carried out there. Jenkins described Zelenskyy as appearing remarkably fit and very sharp during his interview. Now, I'm kind of glad that he described it that way, because if you go back to like the first episode or the second episode of this, the pictures I had of Zelenskyy showed a guy that was about 20 years younger looking. He has aged dramatically. But that's what happens to presidents, doesn't it? I mean, you see it here in this country all the time. I think the only person who went out of the White House looking almost the same as he did when he went in was, well, Donald Trump. He looks more or less the same as he did when he got there. Anyway. Let's move on. My dog is fidgeting around. Hold still. I don't know why she's so fidgety right now. Alright, so moving on, and it's a bit of a fast forward. So the next story takes place about 5.5 hours later. So it's about 8:30 now. And it's going to be a little disturbing for some of you, so if you have weak constitutions, man up, honestly. But this photo I'm about to show you proves to me that the Ukrainian army has a pretty sick, twisted sense of humor, and I'd like to buy those men a beer who did this. Anyway, you're probably wondering what the hell I'm on about now. So I'm going to show you the picture.
I am. I'm going to have to go load it up on YouTube.
There you go. A grisly image has emerged, purportedly showing the bodies of Russian soldiers arranged in the letter Z, basically mocking them after Ukraine's military recaptured a village in the country's east. The photo was taken Monday outside the city of Kharkiv and shows 4 corpses lined up to form the letter that has become a sign of support for Russia's military and its invasion of Ukraine. No, no, no. The Z was put on the Russian tanks because that is their word that is the first letter of the word that they use that symbolizes victory. It's a morale boosting, like a nose art type thing, but they put it on everything. And the Ukrainians pretty much turn these dudes into a stain and a memory, literally, and then mock the Russians by doing this.
The only thing that would have made it better is
well, they're all
they've
missing
done
their
that with
heads
Russian-
if you hadn't noticed.
Well, I was going to say, the only thing that would make it better is if they were all Russian generals.
Oh, that would have been epic.
Yeah.
I mean, they've already lost 11 of them, but anyway.
12.
12? Oh,
Oh,
So the Associated Press described the area where its photographer took the image as having the feel of an open-air morgue, where the dead lie unclaimed and unexplained, sometimes for weeks on end, as Ukrainian and Russian forces fight for control of little slivers of land. The bodies in the image have not been identified, but are believed to be Russian troops. Did the flags on their armbands maybe help give that away? Russia's invasion now has stretched to 70 days. Elsewhere in Ukraine on Wednesday, an image showed vehicles in flames after missiles hit an oil depot in the territory controlled by Russian-backed separatist forces in Makivka, about 95 miles east of the Ukrainian city of Donetsk, according to the AP. I did have that photo, but I saw this one. I'm like, nope, we're going with this one. We're going with this one. You're right. It would have been so much better if they did that with generals. But
Yeah.
beggars can't be choosers.
What about much bigger Z?
The fact that one of those bastards came up with that idea going, hey, we should line up the bodies and make the letter Z. Give that man a promotion. I will buy that man a beer. I'm telling you right now, because that's my level
That
of
man was
cynicism.
probably a former Marine.
Drink a beer.
That is my level of twisted humor. Like, I'd do that at every battlefield. Because that would demoralize the Russian military. Having to see that every day, like, that would piss them off, but it would break them eventually. I'm tired of seeing these Z's. Anyway. Moving on. And, well, strangely enough, it's the last story I've got for the day. Like, there really wasn't much to do today.
I've got one leftover from yesterday.
Okay. I mean, we'll go over that then after this. So about 8:27. So that's around about the same time. But I have this photo for you, and there's very different vehicles. They don't even look Russian, because they're not. Ukraine is vowing Wednesday that it's ready after its northern neighbor, Belarus, which Russia has used as a springboard for its invasion, announced military exercises to assess the combat readiness of their armed forces. It's a dry run before they join the invasion. Let's be
They
honest.
join the invasion with Russia. They become Russia's basically backup.
Well, they are, because they were their staging area, which is why I'm shocked we haven't sanctioned these guys into the Stone Age. What's the motivation not to do that? Anyway, the Belarusian Defense Ministry said that the exercises that began Wednesday would also be used to assess their military's ability to operate on, quote, an unknown terrain in a rapidly changing situation. That sounds like they're going to cross the border into Ukraine, doesn't it? We do not rule out that the Russian Federation could at some point use the territory of Belarus. They already have. The armed forces of the Republic of Belarus against Ukraine, said Andriy Demchenko, spokesperson for Ukraine's State Border Service. Therefore, we are ready, he vowed, reportedly adding that Ukraine has strengthened its border with Belarus since the invasion began. Russia held joint military exercises with Belarus prior to its ongoing war in Ukraine. Belarusian officials did not say how many troops are involved in the exercises, but noted that their number would be gradually increased. It claimed the maneuvers do not threaten the European community in general, and any neighboring countries in particular. Well, yeah, because they have tunnel vision. They're looking straight at their target and nothing else. And they're like, don't worry, we won't attack anybody else. Anyway, so as for timeline stories today, that's really all I had. There wasn't much to go on. I just checked to see if there's any updates, and there aren't any. So if you had a story that you wanted to touch up on yesterday, feel free, go right ahead.
So you know how I posted that article about that giant warehouse about 2 hours north of Moscow that caught fire yesterday?
Yes.
There's an update to that story. Apparently, that particular warehouse was being used to store books that just happened to have been freshly printed that deleted Ukraine from any mention.
Huh.
Apparently, the company that is printed the books is the owner is a good friend of Vlad's, of Putin's.
Pooty poos.
And they were removing any reference to Ukraine being a sovereign country.
So I'm going to try to do this in real time while you describe this. Go ahead, and I'm going to try to pull up this photo because I think I found exactly the story you're talking about. So go ahead and elaborate on that while I do this.
It was like, what was it, an 8.5 acre industrial building. That not all of it was being used for the books, mind you. I just think it's funny that those books were freshly printed and deleting the reference for Ukraine, and then seriously caught fire. Find that a little suspect.
All right, so
Now, either it was Russian sabotage, Russians sabotaging Russians
Russians
because of how
sabotaging Russian
unpopular it
things.
is.
Let's see. The fire happened
Because I
around
doubt
midnight.
I doubt Ukraine would have that kind of intel and be able to act on it so quickly.
Yeah, I mean, they've got a lot of opposition in their own country, so that, yeah, and if they don't have guns, they can set things on fire, clearly. So, details are, fire started around midnight. It's in a place called, Bogorsk. That's not easy to say. Anyway,
Nope.
The warehouse of the pro-Kremlin Pwnery publishing house. It's where printed materials were stored. It burst into flames. The blaze is the latest major unexplained fire in Russia, including sensitive facilities in recent weeks. Fires and explosions have also broken out at Russia's largest chemical plant, storage depots, and a defense research site. Russia refuses to comment on what causes these mysterious blazes.
People?
Well, yeah.
People.
Let's see. The Russian
Maybe Ukrainians that are living in Russia?
Maybe they actually do have a counterintelligence network. They speak the same language, roughly, so yeah, maybe they, have an underground. The press service of the Russian Emergencies Ministry told Russia's state-run news agency TASS that by roughly 3 a.m. local time, the area of the blaze was 34,000 square meters. That's huge.
It's like 8.5 acres.
That's gigantic.
Huge building.
Yeah. Let's see. Emergency services told TASS that there was a partial collapse of the warehouse and that there was a threat to the neighboring ones located 10 meters away. That's a lot of fire. Warehouse contained textbooks and other printing products, according to TASS. Let's see. I'm trying to find details of what they had inside.
I don't think they said specifically, other than that it was textbooks that were deleting references to Ukraine being a sovereign nation.
Actually, you might be right. So the warehouse was used by Russian publishing house Pwnery, which mainly produces educational books for Russian schools, according to Nexta. Pwnery means enlightenment in Russian. According to the news, I'm trying to translate this in real time, so you have to bear with me. Responding to the news of the blaze, Anton Gerashchenko, yeah, that's right, an advisor to, I'm pretty rusty at this. An advisor to Ukraine's Minister of Internal Affairs said that his Telegram channel that shortly after Russian President Putin launched his invasion, the publisher's management had ordered staff to minimize or eliminate all mention of Kyiv and Ukraine in their school textbooks. You were right. Russia has once again had a big fire. The warehouse of the scandalous textbook publisher is on fire, referring to the string of mysterious fires breaking out in Russia in the recent weeks. It's nice. That's nice.
They're not so mysterious now, are they?
Let's see. HVS says, meanwhile, dozens of U.S. food processing facilities have burned to the ground in the last 2 weeks. All the pictures and stories of it have been purged off of Google search results and replaced by a report that it never happened. Of course not, because it's Bill Gates doing it all. You'd think I just pulled that out of my ass, but you better look up how many freaking farms he owns now.
Yeah, he does own it.
Yeah,
I think he's the single largest farm owner at this point.
He is.
In the US.
He's the largest corporate farm owner in the country. And then they're trying to ban menthols, so obviously he doesn't own the Lorillard tobacco fields. Don't mess with my fucking Newports. Even though I quit 15 years ago. Anyway.
If he wants riots, that's how he's going to get riots.
I'm the blackest white dude you'll ever know. I drove a 2-door Cadillac with Dayton's on it.
You're the most
menthols.
Asian dude.
You're the most Asian white dude we know.
Well, I'm both. I'm Afro Samurai. What can I say? God, I haven't seen that in forever.
I haven't seen
Anyway.
that one in forever either.
So Mike, you got anything you want to add that maybe we missed for today? Did you see anything kind of interesting? I'll try to throw in a picture while you describe it.
Yeah, I saw one thing here. Let me pull it up. I was perusing Al Jazeera, and
Ooh.
apparently a Somali family fled Ukraine, becoming a refugees twice over.
What?
Yeah, this
How
is
did
good.
they get to Ukraine in the first place?
I don't know. Mohammed Abdi, 31, packed his family's bags the day Russia invaded Ukraine, having escaped Somalia 7 years earlier.
I have that picture. Keep going.
Okay. On February 24th, a cloudy Thursday, Mohammed Abdi was preparing for work in Kyiv while his wife was getting their 7-year-old daughter ready for school when the Russian military started bombarding the Ukrainian capital.
Jesus.
As explosions rang out, Abdi, a grocer, Zamzan Hussein, and little Rueda stayed in their apartment. They felt nervous as they feared how the conflict might evolve. Understanding Russia had launched an all-out war, they discussed evacuation plans, and yada yada. But I could go on. But the whole thing is, they were refugees from Somalia that basically became refugees again because they made the bad decision of moving to Ukraine.
That really sucks.
Yeah.
So they left Somalia. They arrived in Ukraine in 2015, but they had to pass through Ethiopia and Russia first to get there.
Yeah.
That's just bad luck. It's like my friend whose dad was he was in Siberia and he escaped to Bosnia, and then that war kicked off, and then he finally got a refugee visa to come to the United States. And that's how I met his son, and then we became friends, so. Which was weird because when he was a couple years younger than me, and he asked if he could take my Jeep to his prom, and I was like tickled pink that he would ask that. So I was like, "Here's the keys. Have a great time." And then afterwards, he wanted to get into off-roading, so I took him to a Texas 4x4 gathering because I was part of that club, and I introduced him to my friend Steve, who is Serbian. That didn't go well. Did not go well.
Here's the funny thing. The guy is quoted saying, "It's not the best time to be a refugee in Europe," and he's right about that.
It's not
No,
the
that's
best time
true.
to be a refugee in Eastern Europe, because Eastern Europe doesn't like refugees.
That's very true, but I mean, if you guys remember, a couple of years ago, there was this large swath of immigrants, illegal immigrants, fleeing the north coast of Africa on boats, similar to how people were leaving Cuba. Now,
Well, that's
granted,
been going on for decades.
yeah,
Been going on
and
for
they were
decades.
trying to land. I guess they had something similar to wet foot, dry foot in Italy, so they kept trying to get to
Yeah.
Italy. Yeah,
Italy doesn't want them.
No, Italy is actively returning them
Yes.
and turning them away.
not sure.
They were holding them on off the mainland on an island for deportation.
Corsica, Sardinia,
No, one of the smaller islands.
Sardinia,
No, smaller than that.
Atlantis. Sorry.
No, that's Greek.
That was low-hanging fruit.
I'm sure the Italians wouldn't mind if they were on Atlantis,
Listen, Italians do Italian things.
because that would
Okay?
make them at the bottom of the ocean.
Yeah.
Italians do
Thanks.
Italian things. They didn't like that guy in Jerusalem, so they killed him, and then they moved all the religion to the Vatican, and then they said, "This is ours now." So for them to take Atlantis and say, "This is ours now," would not surprise me at all.
That wasn't technically the Italians. That was the Romans. Entirely different country.
No,
No, same country,
same country. Rome, capital of Italy.
different era.
No. Entirely different country.
Liar.
Totally.
Liar. Fake news. I'm going to turn you into that woman, Ministry of Misinformation, that that woman missed her calling in life. I don't know if you guys saw that video of her doing that Mary Poppins song or whatever, but good God, was she good at it.
John, It's an
What?
entirely different country, because the last time an Italian tried to bring Italy back to the Roman days, it did not end well for him.
He ended up upside down, dead.
No, he ended up
And his
he ended
mistress.
up into several pieces and being strewn along the countryside. That's different.
Oh, it's a different guy. Which one are you referring to?
Mussolini.
He was hung upside down by his feet. There's a really famous photo of it. After
And
they
his
killed him.
mistress.
They hung him upside down. You know one thing he did do that was actually really good for that country, though?
The trains ran on time.
No. He was a big nutritionist, strangely enough. And he convinced the nation that they need to cut down on pasta and start growing rice. And I think he even promoted like couscous, which is something between pasta and rice. It really is.
No,
It's the weirdest
I've
stuff
had
ever.
couscous. No, but my great grandfather only liked one thing that Mussolini did, and that was that he got the trains running on time, because they never ran on time for that.
And then the Japanese
No, 'cause
go,
if
that.
they didn't run on time, they got shot.
Well, yeah, but then the Japanese were like, that. We're doing that.
We're doing that. We're doing that.
And they still do it to this day. If you're late by 1 minute, they give you like a signed apologetic voucher to take to your employer. Like, why
Yeah.
are you late? Here. It was the train. It wasn't me, I swear. Anyway. Actually it's sumimasen. They hand him the card. Anyway. Okay, so Scott, you had one. Mike, you had one. Polish Hammer, do you have any stories? Nope.
Other than I don't know, dude. I
Doesn't
really
have a
don't
story.
know.
He's just gonna play the music, isn't he?
He's just gonna play the music. Yeah.
Are you asking for me to explain it?
No.
Then quit
No.
mentioning it.
Matter of fact, we hit 1 hour and 41 or 1 hour and 1 minute. So since we ran out of stories, I'm not gonna waste the rest of you guys' evening. I'm gonna play this. And I'm gonna thank my panelists for being here. And I did try to give them more talkie time, HVS. It's hard to get them to stab one in there when they're the ones providing me all the stories I put in the timeline anyway. Anyway, if you're new to my channel, welcome. If you're a regular here, welcome back. Either way, check my other playlist and see if my other interests might be of interest to you. That's all I've got for you today. This is the War Room. It was day 70. We'll be back for day 71, which I believe will be the 50th episode of the War Room. Maybe I'll do something a little special for it. Maybe. Hopefully there'll be more stories too. And yeah, I'll try to get these guys to talk more, I promise. Anyway, thanks for watching. Slava Ukraini.
Heroyam Slava.
And
Shall not be infringed.
we'll see you tomorrow.